Hi, Renato. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Yeah. This is getting to be fun.
This is getting to be a lot of fun. Let's talk about quality. This is the subject that everybody talks about, and there's no resolution, and there's no answers, and there's no clarity. And I was wondering, is it possible to clarify this? Is it possible to define this in a way that's actually useful to all of us?
Well, I had this presentation that ran the world through YouTube, I think. Quality doesn't matter.
The one in Bangkok, yeah.
The one in Bangkok. Yeah, quality doesn't matter.
It's been watched now 2,500 times.
Yes, that's been my mantra for a long time. And people when I say that quality doesn't matter, they think that I'm talking about linguistic quality. Linguistic quality always matters. You can't, and what I say is that if you don't deliver quality, if you deliver poor quality, the market will take care of you. But quality is something that you don't talk about. You don't negotiate. You just do it. You deliver good quality. But quality varies. What is quality for me? It's completely different of what it would be for Bob. If I need to understand a Japanese text that just arrived on Twitter and was sent by somebody that is suing me, and I see my name written there, I want to know that right away. So I don't need to call a translation. It's 140 characters. I go into Language Weaver's portal. Oh, Language Weaver, no, that's SCL now. Babelfish. I'm talking about the bad ones. Asia Online and Google and get a translation of that thing right away. The quality for me at that moment is excellent. But if I'm doing a large project like an SAP software or something like that, then you need a different level of quality. So what I have a hard time is talking about quality in absolute terms. And quality is relative, I would say. What do you think, Bob?
Well, Renato, I think you really revealed a lot of cards there in the way you told that story, because you were telling the story from the customer's perspective. As a customer, you would want one or another thing.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with defining quality in the language services business is that we always want to define quality for our customers. We always want to complain that they don't want the quality that we want to give them.
They don't want to pay for it.
Exactly. And we just don't do a very good job of acknowledging all the different uses of the material that we're translating. And if we're going to publish it in a magazine or in a book form, then that's a terribly different level of quality than it is if we just want to know if we care about the document.
Exactly.
There was an interesting presentation that Wayne Borland gave at Localization World, and he was talking about how they translated a lot of content, using MT. And they showed it to linguists. Most of the linguists thought it was pretty bad. It was crap. This is not acceptable quality. They showed it to the actual end users who benefit from that content, and they loved it.
Right.
So I think a lot of times the language professional is creating an issue on something that could actually be quite viable in its original form.
Well, I get schizophrenic about that because I'm one of those guys who could open up a book at random and find a typo on the page, maybe my own.
Yeah.
So I love to poke holes at silly machine translations.
Right.
But I use it myself for things, and I really do think that this sort of utility model for quality makes sense, and the only person who can define that is the customer. When we first met in Beijing a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I guess now, Kirti.
Yeah.
That was one of the things we were talking about is how do we use machine translation in discovery kinds of applications where the first goal is to even find out if I care.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the historical use of triage.
Exactly.
To just get to but even for, like Microsoft has, Steve Richardson gave out these numbers, and the numbers were in the 700 million range in 2007. So I did probably over 1 billion people use raw machine translation on the Microsoft knowledge base. Mm-hmm. And 20% of these people actually answer that form when they're asked, did this solve your problem? And 20% say yes. Mm-hmm. Now, when I use the knowledge base, I never say yes, even though it solves my problem. But a lot of people, it's solving, hundreds of millions of people are using it.
The danger in that kind of voting system is, well, of course, if it solves their problem, I suppose that's better. But very often, the reader of a machine translation doesn't really know if there's been some serious error, right? They know whether they can...
If they solve the problem or not.
Right.
But that's the functional application of...
So getting back to the more general aspect of quality, I think it does need to be a professional oversight for most uses. But it still needs to be
the issue that I have is usually when in the language industry we talk about quality, it ends up being this absolute. There is a way, there is a standard. This is the way things should be. When in reality, it's a much broader. The client doesn't care. In my experience, what the client cares about is the quality of the service. Quality. If you ask your clients. Are you happy with your vendor? They'll say yes. And why? Because they delivered the projects on time, the price is right, everything that I ask is delivered, they don't give me a hard time. And if you ask about language quality, they say, oh, no, never heard a complaint. Because if you're a client and you buy 75 languages, you're not going to check yourself 75 languages. So you evaluate on, how do you call... not personal, subjective metrics, and those metrics are: is the person nice on the phone? Do they respond to my emails on a timely manner? Do I deliver good quality? It's the human factor more than the linguistic factor.
Well, and as you pointed out earlier, bad translations they'll take care of themselves eventually with things. And I know that, at Text and Forum, we were recently selected as SAP Translation Partner of the Year. And clearly it was that whole range of services that qualified us for that, not that we had all the commas in the right place.
Exactly. You probably didn't. But who's counting the commas? I find it.
I don't like commas anyway.
Well, who was that? The Portuguese author who died, the Saramago, the Nobel Prize winner. He never used punctuation in his novels. It's like 150 pages of text with no punctuation.
Really?
You put the punctuation where you want.
Sounds like you wrote in Thai.
Yeah, that sounds like Thai.
But anyway, the point. This topic is you can get people very passionate about talking about quality. But I like to look at this from a business perspective. We are in the business of language. And from a business perspective, what matters is quality of service. What matters is consistent quality over time.
Right.
So if you deliver bad quality once but correct it, that's still quality service. If you deliver bad quality consistently, the market takes care of you. Many companies have died because of that.
Right.
Are you happy with the answers, Kirti?
Well, yeah, but your answers are very service provider specific. I'm thinking just in terms of if I'm a user and if I buy Japanese and Chinese products or Korean products now more and more, if I can understand the instructions, I'm happy. I don't care if it's not great English. If the instructions are, decipherable to a point where I can do what I need to do, it's accomplished its objective. And that should be the goal. I think always, does it accomplish the final customer's objective?
Right. Yeah. What is it? What are they going to use the translation for? And was it effective?
And that's a great conclusion and then note for this topic. But we'll be back with some other stuff soon.